Well, good morning. We're here for Sunday school, July 23rd. Get a little bit of rain here in Xenia, so we're welcoming that. We've had some 90-degree days, and most of us could use a little cool down. If you want to find your scripture, your Bible, turn with me to the first chapter of Proverbs. We're going to open up with the introduction to the book of Proverbs. Going to read verses 1 through 7. I know we'll get the scriptures up here a little bit, but make sure you got your own Bible there wherever you are. Proverbs chapter 1, verses 1 through 7. The Proverbs of Solomon, the son of David, king of Israel, to know wisdom and instruction, to perceive the words of understanding, to receive the instruction of wisdom, justice, and judgment, and equity, to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. A wise man will hear and will increase learning, and a man of understanding shall attain unto wise counsels, to understand a proverb and the interpretation, the words of the wise and their dark sayings. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and fools despise... the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge, but fools despise wisdom and instruction. The book of Proverbs is a collection of adages and truisms, proverbs that Solomon had collected and various people recorded, and there are chapters that it appears he wrote and some chapters towards the end that others included. And you could go through the book and try to name the different types of people that he speaks of. There's the wise and there's the foolish. There's the good, the upright, the just, the righteous. He refers to sinners, evil men, the wicked, naughty, scorners. He speaks of the virtuous woman and he speaks of strange women. But I want to talk about the simple. In verse 4 it says to give subtlety to the simple. And when you think of simple, simple means uncomplicated. Not somebody who is hard to figure out. They're just who they are. They don't have a lot of hidden things going on inside. What you see is what you get. There was a note here. A simple could be unwary, unsuspecting. You know, the simple, they don't put on airs. They're just who they are. They're just not many-faceted. You know, you don't catch them different on a different day. And verse 4 says, the scriptures, these proverbs, are to give subtlety to the simple, to the young man knowledge and discretion. And you notice that it puts simple with young. So you think of someone who's immature or adolescent, and they haven't seen a lot of things in the world. They haven't been exposed to things that they've been protected from. A person who is simple is in need of knowledge and discretion. He's simple because he doesn't have the advantage of experience. He doesn't mean to be inconsiderate, but doesn't always know when to keep his mouth shut. The youth that he has may give him boldness, but he lacks self-control about holding his tongue in deference to others with more experience and insight. I was thinking of the book of Job. You have the three friends of Job, so-called friends of Job, who take turns berating Job until Job tells them all that he's heard enough and they're no good at all. And finally, there's a fourth person who speaks. And he says, I always thought the experience should speak first, but you haven't done a very good job. And so he speaks up. That's a wise person to let others speak. There's a proverb about a wise man holds his tongue, but fools just expose everything that's in their heart. They open up. And when we read verse 4, to give subtlety to the simple, it doesn't say anything negative about the person. It just says that they lack experience, they lack discretion, they lack some of exposure that they will have throughout life. So let me go to verse 20 to 22 in this chapter. We're going to read a couple sections in this chapter. And in chapter 1 of Proverbs, verses 20 to 22, Solomon says, Wisdom crieth without, she uttereth her voice in the streets. She crieth in the chief place of concourse, in the openings of the gates. In the city she uttereth her words, saying, How long, you simple ones, will you love simplicity? And the scorners delight in their scorning, and fools hate knowledge. A lot in Proverbs, when it speaks about the simple, is negative because it appears that this person is simple because they haven't applied themselves. They haven't learned from God. They haven't learned from their elders. And the simple ones that love simplicity, scorners that delight in scorning, and fools that hate knowledge. But notice that wisdom is crying. Wisdom is speaking up, and wisdom is available. It's our choice to take that wisdom to ourselves. It's not wrong to be simple when you're young, when you're inexperienced. But if you choose not to listen, to choose not to learn and to mature, then you're likely to fall in company with these other characters, the scorners and the fools. And it's wrong to delight in this type of rebellion against the wisdom that God is making available. And that's what this book condemns. We're going to close out this chapter by reading the last two verses, because it's like wisdom is saying, you get your chance and you need to take advantage of it. In verse 32, For the turning away of the simple shall slay them, and the prosperity of fools shall destroy them. But whoso hearkeneth unto me shall dwell safely, and shall be quiet from fear of evil. That's what's condemned, when wisdom and understanding is made available and it is not accepted, it's not received, it's not put to good use. We're going to stay in Proverbs for the most part, but I'm going to go back to Psalm 119 and read two verses out of this chapter. Longest chapter in the Bible, Psalm 119. I'm going to turn to verses 129 and 130. Psalm 119, 129 and 130. Thy testimonies are wonderful, therefore doth my soul keep them. The entrance of thy words giveth light, it giveth understanding unto the simple. And it's God's will that we learn, that we grow, that we mature, that we put wisdom to use, that we apply ourselves to receive what God is saying. Before I leave the book of Psalms, go back to Psalm 116, verse 6. Psalms 116, verse 6. The Lord preserveth the simple. I was brought low, and he helped me. I've applied this to myself. There's things I've seen I can look back in my life and say, I really didn't know where I was or what I was doing, but God protected me. God kept me from harm, kept me from evil, kept me from destruction and distress. Not because of any wisdom I had, but basically God kind of looks out for the simple. If they're not in rebellion, if they're still learning especially, God has the ability to protect and to provide. Back in Proverbs, let's go to Proverbs chapter 14. We're going to look at Proverbs 14 and verse 18. Proverbs 14, verse 18. The simple inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. The simple is referred to more than I think a dozen times in this book, and almost all of them are negative like this. The person who chooses to be simple, who is satisfied without applying themselves, at least spiritually, it says they inherit folly. The simple will inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. So being prudent is opposite of what the person here being called simple is. They are prudent. They look beyond the surface, and they see what's behind actions and behaviors. But the simple don't catch on. They're just not aware. When you think about this verse, the simple will inherit folly, but the prudent are crowned with knowledge. Is that the verse I read? Yeah. You've seen cartoons where a guy's out in the park and there's a big park bench there, and it's bright and shiny. It's got a sign on it that says wet paint. And they just walk over and sit down, to the point that their clothes get marked or they stick to it. That's the description. That's the image of a simple person. They inherit folly. They're not prudent. They're not paying attention to the clues that are going on around them. We don't want to be simple. And there's a series of instruction. We're going to go back to chapters 7, 8, and 9. Let's go back to chapter 7. And we saw in the very first chapter, we saw that wisdom was speaking, and the simple was not just applying themselves. And you'll see here in these various scriptures that wisdom is always available. It's made available to us. So we're going to read in Proverbs 7, we're going to read verses 1 through 8. My son, keep my words and lay up my commandments with thee. Keep my commandments and live, and my law as the apple of thine eye. Bind them upon thy fingers, write them upon the table of thine heart. Say unto wisdom, thou art my sister, and call understanding thy kinswoman, that they may keep thee from the strange woman, from the stranger, which flattereth with her words. For at the window of my house I looked through my casement, and beheld among the simple ones, I discerned among the youths a young man void of understanding, passing through the street near her corner, and he went the way to her house. In these verses, Solomon is saying, and he's describing the simple as someone who is being led into temptation, not being prudent enough. I mean, like ignoring the wet paint sign. He's ignoring what he should know about the steps he was taking. And the story doesn't end well for him. Look at verses 21 to 27 as this chapter closes. This whole chapter is about this story. And it ends this way, beginning with verse 21. With her much fair speech she caused him to yield. With the flattering of her lips she forced him. He goeth after her straightway, as an ox goeth to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks. Till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteth to the snare, and knoweth not that it is for his life. Hearken unto me now, therefore, O ye children, and attend to the words of my mouth. Let not thine heart decline to her ways. Go not astray in her paths. For she hath cast down many wounded. Yea, many strong men have been slain by her. Her house is a way to hell, going down to the chambers of death. And, the Bible's not anti-women, but there are women you need to stay away from. You don't go out looking for company in certain locations. You want, what's that?
The red light district.
Yeah, the red light district. We know there's places. You don't go to some place where everybody's drunk to find a healthy companion or to find someone you want to get to know better. And that's sort of how it seems to me. But I want to go to chapter 8. And this chapter, to me, is this the one? No. We just see a pattern existing here where wisdom is speaking. And wisdom, in the sense that Solomon is speaking to his own son, he's saying that wisdom is like a woman who is trying to woo him and give him what he needs and to keep him from danger, keep the son from danger. We're going to read in chapter 8, verses 1 through 6. And Solomon says, "Does not wisdom cry, and understanding put forth her voice? She standeth in the top of high places, by the way in the places of the paths. She crieth at the gates, at the entry of the city, at the coming in at the doors. Unto you, O men, I call, and my voice is to the sons of man. O ye simple, understand wisdom, and ye fools, be ye of an understanding heart. Hear, for I will speak of excellent things, and the opening of my lips shall be right things." So Solomon's saying that there is wisdom available for us, for the young. There is godly wisdom. There is a good education. There is natural things that we become aware of as we grow up. God doesn't want us to stay simple. He doesn't want us to stay so innocent of knowing everything that we don't know what to stay away from. Look at verses 32 to 36 in this chapter, chapter 8, Proverbs 8, beginning with 32. And he closes out this chapter, and this is wisdom speaking. Wisdom speaks through this whole chapter, and it's as if God is speaking and saying, "I am wisdom for you," but it's referred to in this chapter as wisdom. "Now therefore hearken unto me, O ye children, for blessed are they that keep my ways. Hear instruction, be wise, refuse it not. Blessed is the man that heareth me, watching daily at my gates, waiting at the posts of my doors. For whoso findeth me findeth life, and shall obtain favor of the Lord. But he that sinneth against me wrongeth his own soul. All they that hate me love death." That last phrase, "all they that hate me love death," could be said about God. A culture that finds death to be a good result for the innocent, for the infirm, for the cripples. The Nazis started killing veterans in their hospitals that were crippled and disabled. They started killing them first. As if death is an answer, as if death is a way to get rid of problem people. And wisdom here says, "All they that hate me love death." But wisdom is speaking. Wisdom is speaking. We can choose wisdom. We can choose life. And we do choose life when we respond to the wisdom of God. The next chapter, chapter 9, and again, wisdom is speaking, but there's a contrast in this book that's really remarkable. We're going to look first at the opening verses 1 through 6. And it says that wisdom, in Proverbs 9:1, wisdom hath builded her house. She hath hewn out her 7 pillars. She hath killed her beasts. She hath mingled her wine. She hath also furnished her table. So she's preparing like a feast in a time of celebration. She has sent forth her maidens. She crieth upon the highest places of the city, whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanteth understanding, lacks understanding, she saith to him, Come, eat of my bread, drink of the wine which I have mingled, forsake the foolish and live, and go in the way of understanding. That paragraph there is separated from the verses that follow to some degree. But it's a picture of wisdom saying, hey, young man, if you need understanding, if you need knowledge, if you need God's wisdom, then you can get it all here. And it's not, God doesn't make us punish ourselves and beat ourselves on the back to learn. This wisdom is described as putting out a feast. There's good things here, good things, good natural things to enjoy, and there's more that will come along with it. But the contrast in this chapter begins in verse 13 down to the end of the chapter. It opens with wisdom building her house and fixing her feast. But look at verse 13. A foolish woman is clamorous. She is simple and knoweth nothing. For she sitteth at the door of her house, on a seat in the high places of the city, to call passengers who go right on their ways. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him, Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell. This picture is a poetic way of saying this woman, she's simple herself, and she's calling out to the simple and those who lack understanding because she knows they're the only ones who's going to respond. What she has to give, it's not quite a feast, but she's saying, you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be doing what we're doing. But, it's more fun that way. It's more exciting. Growing up next to my grandparents' farm, if somebody stole a watermelon, they thought it tasted really good. You didn't have to pay for it. That's what I see when it says stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. And the simple will respond to that. But there's a choice. She's calling out from where her place is in the high on a high place of the city, but wisdom is also calling out. And which one do we choose? Which one do we respond to? The simple and the foolish are going to be, if they don't have the discretion to respond, then they can make a choice that is very, very harmful. So that's mostly what I was going to bring from Proverbs. Let's go to the New Testament, to the book of Romans, chapter 16. This is the only place that the word simple is used in the New Testament. Romans 16 and verse 19. There it is. Romans 16, 19. And Paul is writing, I think, this is the closing chapter of the book of Romans. For your obedience has come abroad unto all men. I'm glad, therefore, on your behalf. But yet I would have you to be wise unto that which is good. We need to be up on things that are godly. We need to be wise about those things. But he says, wise unto that which is good, and simple concerning evil. We should be simple concerning evil. That means we don't have to study things that are impure or illegal, to do things that we're not supposed to do and try to get away with. And just I'm going to close here with, I made some notes because, there was a preacher that used to, he made albums. We had one here, maybe at the church, or I remember here, this guy, I can't remember his name, but he would go to saloons and bars and witness. That was where the sinners are. Let's speak to them there. And that's not wise. It's not wise to seek out in a place where people are going to not be really responsive. Do you know that Jesus never chased down sinners? And he wasn't like a preacher on the street corner with the sign, you're all going to die and go to hell, you're all evil. He didn't do that. He didn't pursue sinners. He taught those who would hear, but he didn't chase after anyone. Now, he visited homes of sinful people when he was invited. He allowed their cultural hospitality to give him the opportunity to be among them and to display godliness. But he never compromised himself to make others comfortable. You might hear modern day people saying things like Jesus hung out with sinners. Well, he didn't say, we're all sinners. But he didn't go up to some reprobate and somebody who's one of the priests was trying to kill him or something. Say, hey, let's go fishing, let's go hunting, let's go walk together. To be simple concerning evil. It's not, we can know something is evil. We can know that pornography is evil. Drugs can be evil. So we don't have to study those. We don't have to get involved in those things to know more about them. There was a gentleman who was in some some city away from his own hometown. And he was in a bookstore, and there were some, just call it pornography books on the counter. And he was tempted to pick it up and say, maybe I should really see what really is here, and so I can talk about it with experience. And he decided not to, and it turns out there was somebody right behind him in line that he was going to conference with. But, we're supposed to avoid all appearance of evil. Thank you. Avoid all appearance. We don't have to study evil. We don't have to join evil to speak against it. If you watch TV shows, we like cop shows and stuff. But, people who go undercover and they're in gangs, police really do. There are people who really do that. That's a dangerous place to be because you have to live a false life and so forth. We are to be simple concerning evil. Romans 16:19. I would have you wise unto that which is good, simple concerning evil. I'm thankful that God protects the simple, but we have no excuse to remain simple all of our lives. That we have a God who wants us to learn. Well, I knew I had another verse. It's in Hebrews. Did I write it down? Anybody have anything they wanted to comment on? I know I got a verse somewhere. Do I have my phone on me? My phone's not back here. There's a verse in Hebrews about what time you ought to be teachers. You still need to be instructed. You remember that verse? It was when he was talking about Melchizedek. All right, well, it's in there somewhere. It's in Hebrews, and he says, you've been around long enough. You should be in position to instruct others, but you still, the youth are supposed to Okay, it's chapter 5. Hebrews chapter 5, verses 12 through 14. For when for the time you ought to be teachers, you have need that one teach you again, which be the first principles of the oracles of God, and are become such as have need of milk, and not of strong meat. For everyone that useth milk is unskillful in the word of righteousness, for he's a babe, he's simple. But strong meat belongeth to them who are of full age, even those who by reason of use have their senses exercised to discern both good and evil. We are supposed to desire the sincere milk of the world that we may grow thereby, but there's a time when milk should be passed and we should be ready for strong meat, is what he's saying. You said you ought to be teachers by now, but you still need to be taught. It's good to be simple about certain things, but we shouldn't be simple in everything in our life. That's my lesson. Anybody has something just want to jump in? All right. Thank you. See you next week.